What up, what up? Good to see everyone. If you're getting here early, make sure to smash the like button. Sir Rose, thank you, man. Salute to you as well. Sir Oz, I'd assume. Sir Rose, Sir Oz. Yeah. There we go. Echo gone. Echo should be gone. Makes me sound evil. I think we fixed it. Okay, awesome. Always something to fix. Always something to fix. You know, I don't change the settings. You'd think like the settings are constantly being changed. I don't change them. So it's funny to me that's like, oh, well, what's going to be working today? Take a look at the XRP price chart. Made a video on this last night, but pretty significant level here. I mean, we're kind of retesting this previous zone and just seeing if we can bounce off this. If we can kind of hold this level, that'd be a very, very bullish sign. And we're just kind of waiting to see if the chart can confirm it. So we had a big crash. We kind of jumped back up, sold off a little bit, and now we're testing this support. Yeah, Windows is crazy. It's like, here, let me just change everything you set up. I saw PPI came in. Ed, good to see you. I saw PPI came in pretty solid. So that's definitely a fairly good sign. Two weeks XRP Vegas. Yeah, no, I'm pumped. GM Roger, GM Crypto Clay. Guys, make sure you're getting early. You smash the like button. I don't know of a whole lot going on right now in the market. I mean, I gave it a quick look this morning, but we'll take another quick look right now. One of the big things was obviously that PPI data came in pretty decent the other day. It was a big month-over-month drop-off, but I think the year-over-year data was like pretty much just down, but nothing overly significant. So really hoping the next PPI and CPI numbers come in extensively low. Let's take a look at this real quick. I'm kind of curious. Let me see what I got in the chat first. Oh, Judge Torres is ruling. Okay, yeah, so Judge Torres obviously put out that ruling that she thinks that essentially things were filed in the wrong way to get that injunction removed. So it's going to be interesting to see if Judge Torres actually does remove the injunction. I think most likely Ripple and the SEC will come together. They'll propose a new way to move forward or more clarity on the injunction, and then they'll move forward with that. So maybe they can get Judge Torres to agree to do no lockups on the XRP sales or do no discounts or something like that. Oh, Tracy, I don't think there's anything to be worried about right now. Altus, thank you so much for the donation. There's a lot of interesting thoughts on Judge Torres' ruling. I know John Deaton had put out a video, I think on crypto law. I didn't get a chance to see it, but I'm curious if there's any good clips floating around of John Deaton. Kind of making his voice heard on this. I don't see anything yet. Did anyone watch the John Deaton thing? Oh, here we go. Let's take a look at what John Deaton has to say about this. He's been one of those people who's just been extremely accurate about most of the things in this case that he's talked about. Anyone who has been like very, very accurate, I'm always really curious to get their opinion on this stuff. So I think I got a couple good clips we can listen to John Deaton talking about this.
What's not at play here is political motivation. You know, I've always said that Judge Torres was good and all of that, and I think she handled the case fine. But, you know, I hope that crypto, the new administration, the Trump and the meme coin, and she's not drawing a line here where she thinks crypto's bad and she's taking a stand. Just because the SEC changed doesn't mean I'm going to change my ruling. I hope she doesn't dig her heels in that way.
Oh. What the heck was that? Sorry, guys. All right, we back.
And all of that, and I think she handled the case fine. But, you know, I hope that crypto, the new administration, the Trump and the meme coin, and she's not drawing a line here where she thinks crypto's bad and she's taking a stand. Just because the SEC changed doesn't mean I'm going to change my ruling. I hope she doesn't dig her heels in that way. But what can we expect? I think we're going to have to see a brief. And I got to tell you, I think the SEC is going to have to eat crow. I think they're going to have to fall on their sword in this joint brief by saying that this case was misguided. I think they got to cite that Congress is working on bills, that digital assets are akin to commodities, and they've come to that decision that ETH, XRP, Solana, Bitcoin, all of these cryptos are in essence more like commodities and should not be governed. I think that they need to say, look, there's no victim here for Ripple. Ripple can sell to a bank, Bank of America, right? They can sell to a hedge fund. those are people who want to do business with Ripple. So this injunction that you have is limiting them and actually disadvantaging Ripple against maybe other projects. And we think that's unfair. There's no victim here. Your injunction is actually hurting American enterprise, is hurting companies who want to use this technology on payment rails and things of that nature. Cite Congress bills, all that basically saying to a shift, hey, we got the digital assets wrong. It was a new technology and we have evolved in our thinking and put all that together and then say to the judge, this is now in the public's best interest. Digital assets are part of our new system moving forward, and XRP is part of that. I think that's really what has to be done.
Okay, very interesting. So John Deaton's essentially saying that Ripple and the SEC need to come together and admit that the entire case was misguided in order to really get Judge Torres to lean in. I wonder if DAI posted any other clips from that video. Oh, it looks like it was only 11 minutes long. Let's see if we can just
Got me drinking the Gatorade. Hey, everybody. Listen, I thought of Michael Corleone today. That's Stuart Alderodi, because he's got to think like Michael Corleone. Just when he's out, they bring him back in. And so today there was a curveball in the Ripple case. I call it a curveball. Now, some people out there are minimizing this. I'm not going to minimize it. I'm not going to make it bigger than it is, but I'm going to tell you what my take is. So just to remind people out there, the Ripple and the SEC agreed to settle basically the case. And it was really Ripple's cross appeal. The SEC dropped their appeal, which was on XRP secondary sales on exchanges and whatnot. But Ripple had their appeal, which was related to the injunction on institutional sales and the $150 million fine. Well, the SEC agreed to dismiss that, and Ripple agreed, but it was conditioned upon the judge, Judge Torres, agreeing to remove the injunction and reduce the $150 million fine by 60% to $50 million. And they filed this before the court, and basically it's asking the judge to basically give what her ruling would be if, in fact, it came back down to her and was remanded by the Second Circuit. And this judge, Torres, said, no, I would deny it, and for these reasons. Now, I'm going to read to you basically what she said. So let me put on my glasses, right? She says that here the parties asked the court how it would rule on what they frame as a request for approval of a settlement, and it cites a case. And then the judge says the parties request that the court absolve Ripple of its obligation to cease its illegal offer and sale of securities. Remember, she said that those institutional sales violated the law. So she's writing it that way. You want me to absolve Ripple from their illegal sales. And two, the full penalty gets reduced, obviously, to the $50 million. Now, she says that what matters is the remedy sought, not how the parties seek it. And then she goes on to say that by styling their motion as one for settlement approval, the parties failed to address the heavy burden they must overcome to vacate the injunction and substantially reduce the civil penalty. She says that's more of relief under a Rule 60, and it's only granted upon a showing of exceptional circumstances. And then she finally says that the parties have made no effort to satisfy that burden, that heavy burden. In fact, their request doesn't even mention the rule.
So I think that's really interesting. I mean, that tells me a lot right there. Essentially, Ripple and the SEC went to Judge Torres and said, hey, by the way, we want this to be the ruling. And I don't think Judge Torres took that very well. Now, I don't think it's necessarily something that won't get resolved, but I think essentially Judge Torres is saying, like, look, there's a court system in the United States. We made a ruling. You can't just tell me to change the ruling, right? You need to come to me with a good explanation on why this ruling needs to be changed. And I think that overall makes sense, right? You can't just have a government entity and someone getting together, and whenever they think a ruling gets wrong, they just get together, change the ruling, and say, okay, this is the new law. So I do see what Judge Torres is saying there. They tried to get it done fast. Yes, exactly. They tried to get it done fast. They tried to see if Judge Torres would rubber stamp it. She's saying, no, you actually need to go through and explain to me why this is the case. And I think that will yield much better results, but totally understand what John's Deaton saying here, right? Like, if me and some party come to a settlement and there's already been a ruling in the court, right? We can't just go around and have the courts just willy-nilly changing the rulings. So she's just looking for something to be a little bit more concrete here and to have some facts behind the decision. So she's just not rubber stamping the decision on its own.
Now, the most important thing to understand here, and to me, is that part where she says what matters is the remedy sought, not how the parties seek it. So she could have easily said, listen, you're really doing this wrong. It's a Rule 60, but I'm not going to make you refile it and do all this nonsense because all that matters is the remedy sought. So I'm going to basically approve your settlement. She didn't do that. She did the opposite of that. She said, you haven't even talked about the heavy burden that you have. So what's this mean? Now, listen, if I were the judge, I'm more of a neutral, hands-off kind of person. I'd say, listen, the United States government wants to do this. This private company wants to do this. They've come to terms. The law that I found was violated. She found it, not me. It deals with banks and hedge funds and institutions. Those are sophisticated investors anywhere. There really is no victim here. I found that the real victims, the XRP holders, victimized by the SEC's bullshit and nonsense of this case, I already ruled in their favor. So I'm just going to approve it and move on. She didn't do that. And I think part of the reason she didn't do that is absolute frustration and anger at the SEC, in my opinion, at the SEC, which you got to understand, this case tied this woman's courtroom, her staff, for 5 years. In the summary judgment motion, there were thousands of exhibits. Remember, out of those thousands, she cited XRP holder affidavits, which shows you how we played a role. But thousands of exhibits. Do you know how much time, energy, and resources that this judge put into this case? And then all of a sudden, the SEC comes around and says, psych, nah, Judge, we just want to forget all this thing, let's reduce the fine. And, that injunction that we fought so hard for you to order, we just want you to forget that. And the judge is saying, not so fast. And I think she's making them do their job, which is, I'm talking about the judge now. Let's put ourselves in her shoes. I found that they violated the law and I enjoined them. And now you want me to just ignore that. So you have to give me a reason. You can't just come here and say, psych, we changed our mind. Just rubber stamp it, Judge. This is the judge saying to the SEC and Ripple, I'm not rubber stamping anything. You need to put together an argument that convinces me that it is in the public's best interest, because she cites that in her ruling. She says in her ruling that it must be that the public won't be disserviced by removing the injunction. And so convince me to lift the injunction. So that's really, I think, what's going on here. And I think that, listen, Stuart Alderodi, who's brilliant. I love the guy. I've met him a couple of times. He's great. I know that he tweeted out this isn't that big of a deal, and it might not be that big of a deal, but this isn't something that they wanted. These high-priced lawyers, they all just assumed that the judge would rubber stamp it. I'll be honest with you. I thought that the judge would rubber stamp it. What I hope's not at play here is political motivation. I've always said that Judge Torres was good and all of that, and I think she handled the case fine. But, I hope that crypto, the new administration, the Trump and the meme coin, and she's not drawing a line here where she thinks crypto's bad and she's taking a stand. Just because the SEC changed doesn't mean I'm going to change my ruling. I hope she doesn't dig her heels in that way. But what can we expect? I think we're going to have to see a brief. And I got to tell you, I think the SEC is going to have to eat crow. I think they're going to have to fall on their sword in this joint brief by saying that this case was misguided. I think they got to cite that Congress is working on bills, that digital assets are akin to commodities, and they've come to that decision that ETH, XRP, Solana, Bitcoin, all of these cryptos are in essence more like commodities and should not be governed. I think that they need to say, look, there's no victim here for Ripple. Ripple can sell to a Bank of America, right? They can sell to a hedge fund. Those are people who want to do business with Ripple. So this injunction that you have is limiting them and actually disadvantaging Ripple against maybe other projects. And we think that's unfair. There's no victim here. Your injunction is actually hurting American enterprise, is hurting companies who want to use this technology on payment rails and things of that nature. Cite Congress bills, all that basically saying to a shift, hey, we got the digital assets wrong. It was a new technology and we have evolved in our thinking and put all that together and then say to the judge, this is now in the public's best interest. Digital assets are part of our new system moving forward, and XRP is part of that. I think that's really what has to be done because she has signaled here that you have a heavy burden to convince me, and it must be in the public good. And so this is a judge who is frustrated. Imagine putting in countless hours. Ripple spent $150 million. The SEC had to spend an equivalent of $100 million on the case. So you're talking about $250 million, and you're talking about the judge, her clerks, her magistrate, all of those people tied up on this case. And now the SEC says, just kidding. And I think the judge is holding their feet to the fire. So that's my take on it. I will tell you this. I think if they put together that argument for the judge, then I have to believe that Judge Torres would grant it. If she wouldn't, after that, then to me, that would be an act of judicial activism and would be maybe politics coming into play for some reason. So I think ultimately this is just going to be another speed bump along the way, but it is a curveball. Hope that answers your guys' questions. I was getting a lot of questions on it, so I figured I'd come out here and try to explain and give my take. What's going to happen? They're going to go back to the drawing board. They're going to get something together, hopefully get a favorable ruling from her. Then it would go to the Second Circuit. They would remand it to her. She would grant, it would be over. So you're probably looking at several more months before it's completely 100% blessed. That's it. That's my take. Everybody have a great night. See you soon.
All right. Well, that was awesome. I'm glad we did that rather than me trying to explain it, because I think John Deaton put it into, sometimes when you're explaining those legal things, especially for someone like me, I have a pretty good grasp of how things shake out. But I mean, to hear it from John Deaton and hear him kind of agree with a lot of the stuff I was talking about there and just break down sort of why this is happening, it seems directly in line. So Seems directly in line with what I was expecting. Tracy, I think that's generally conservative. I mean, Ripple needs to work with the SEC, get a new motion, get that over to Judge Torres. Judge Torres needs to review, and then hopefully Judge Torres just rubber stamps it then. So I don't think it really matters that much. I don't think it's going to make a big deal for XRP. I mean, the settlement's in. The news headline is already that the case has been dismissed and agreed on by the SEC. I mean, from everyone's perspective, this case is over. We're just looking at some little administrative things on the end of the case. Doesn't really make a big difference to me one way or the other. I really don't think it matters. No problem. No, thank John Deaton, really. I mean, all I did was share his outstanding work. So it's always nice when you have a great video like that. Perfect time, too. Like a little 10-minute video just to share everything going on with the Ripple SEC case right now. And John Deaton broke that down better than I ever could. So appreciate John Deaton for just continuing to be so transparent and put out educational videos for the community. He doesn't have to do that. I'm sure John's an extremely busy guy, and to take some time and just cut right to the most important stuff and just talk about what's on people's mind. See a lot of people worried about XRP's price. I mean, guys, really, in my opinion, nothing has really changed much. I mean, we're just trading right at this median level after that big pump in November. You just got XRP moving along this line, and just got to confirm this level, consolidate a bit, and then hopefully make that next leg up. And then if we can kind of hold right here, then I think we can start ramping back up. But we're at a pretty decent level right now. In my opinion, the downtrend has kind of been closed out. Abs, good to see you. Abs, Zach versus Abs arm wrestling match. XRP Ledger Vegas. Who wins? It's a good question, Abs. I mean, Zach's got a lot of height on you, but I don't know how much height is going to play into the arm wrestling match. I think you're probably a little bit more compact. Abs, because you came in with the donation, I'm gonna say you, but I'm saying right now, I think you're the underdog. I think you're the underdog here just based on physical attributes, but I'll roll with you, Abs. I'll still roll with you. Oh, it's actually happening? Oh man, Abs, you better don't do two arms. Just start getting one arm curls going. One arm curls all day, every day. I need you to prepare for this. I want to see you win. That's so funny. That's awesome. No, I'm gonna have to say, I think you might be the underdog here, but I'm rooting for you. That's so funny. See, I feel like the problem with arm wrestling Zach is I think he already has dad strength in him. I think he might already have that dad strength in him. So that's what you got to be careful of. He is a father. Yeah, he might already have some of that old man strength locked in him. No, Abs is built up a little bit. I think Abs has got more of like the gym strength. I just don't know what Zach is I don't know what kind of strength Zach has that he's hiding. I mean, Zach's enormous, and he's also I also feel like he's got that I don't want to say this as like an insult, but that landscaping strength. I mean, Zach used to do a lot of trade stuff. I know he was probably doing a lot of hauling dirt, mulch. Ab says, bro, I'm not 5'6". Abs, you might not be 5'6". I don't know if you're 5'9" either. Just kidding, just kidding. No, Abs does not look 5'6". The hair at least gets him to 5'7". They could do a whole bunch of funny stuff like that in Vegas. I don't know who in the XRP community would probably... There's a couple people, like maybe T. I wouldn't want to arm wrestle T. But there's a couple people in the community. Jake, I wouldn't want to arm wrestle Jake. Max Avery. There's quite a couple people who I think would take the cake. But that would be funny to have a little tournament and see who wins that. Johnny Crypto. Yeah, get him in the arm wrestling match. I feel like Johnny Crypto would be tough to beat. It would be like everything would be so close to his body. He'd be like arm wrestling, but it'd be like a full bench press for him. Yeah, Johnny would be tough because like he's got a short lever, so everything stays close. I feel like Johnny would be Johnny Cannoli. Oh, that's great. Love Johnny. Johnny, if this comes back to you, all love, brother. I know you know it. Johnny Cannoli. Yeah, JV would be a handful. Lawsuit finished today. Not quite. Johnny's the best. Yeah, I love Johnny. He is the best. Great guy. Let me check through the news real quick. And since Abs derailed the conversation with his arm wrestling match, just messing with you, Abs. No, I love that. That's hilarious. I am rooting for you. I think you're the underdog. And I think if you do lose, you should have Johnny getting ready for a quick sub and have him get like right in there after you. Or cheat a little bit. Try to get in his head. I think you could get into Zach's head pretty easily. What do you think on Mog Coin? I have no idea what Mog Coin even is. You know, one of the biggest misconceptions about me is I'm like some huge crypto junkie. I'm more of an XRP junkie than a crypto junkie. There's a lot of stuff in this industry where I'm just like, you know, I have zero interest in anything going on with this. So I don't know anything about it. I do want to say thank you to Smack Attack. He said, thanks for addressing the lawsuit. It might be a good time to remind people of unexpected things happen in crypto. Oh, I completely agree. And that's a great point. Yeah. Even John Deaton said right there, he expected it to be rubber stamped. It wasn't. And then boom, now we're in a position where there's more that needs to be done. So I know it's annoying. I know a lot of people just want it to be over. Personally, I don't think it's the end of the world. I think it's a bump. And I think we resolve all of this very, very quickly. Not really a lot going on the news cycle. Take a look at some XRP, some price charts real quick. Obviously, XRP to USD just kind of in that reset level. Take a look at Bitcoin dominance real quick. Take a look at what's going on with Bitcoin dominance. A little recovery after the big fall we had on Bitcoin dominance. What we really want to see is Bitcoin dominance break this channel. We've been in this channel forever. What we really want to see is Bitcoin dominance break this channel, but no substantial move on that yet. I think we're still well within this thing. And this is kind of the thing. This is kind of the thing to watch right now. We want to see Bitcoin dominance come all the way back down here and ultimately break. Once that happens, game's on. But once again, we're not really that close to that breaking either. We have to have a pretty substantial drop in Bitcoin dominance, maybe to around 59, 60%, before we can really get in territory where it's like, all right, this thing's going to break down. Nothing goes straight down in a line. Well, there are certain things that do go straight down in a line. I'm not going to lie. If you like, you're right. Not like one single line, but Bitcoin dominance does get pretty liney. I guess if you could make up a term. As you can see, Bitcoin dominance tends to go on these kind of slow uptrends and then elevator down. So we had this huge elevator down. We had another big elevator down. And now I think we're gearing up for another kind of big like crash. So Bitcoin dominance is one of those things that does move in big crashing structures. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw that continue to play out. And then we can take a look at the dollar index as well. Okay, so the dollar index looks to be showing some strength also. So we can do a little bit of a zoom out on the dollar index. And this is another one we're waiting to really do that sell-off. We're getting a little bit of a recovery, finding support here. But this chart does not look strong. I mean, this looks to me like the dollar is ready to fall as well. I mean, this thing is barely hanging on right here. And this is another one we're just looking to see come down a pretty decent amount and maybe get back to those 2015 levels for dollar strength. But all the charts are kind of just in a little bit of no man's land, to be honest with you. They're all waiting to figure out what that next move is going to be, sort of just hanging out, trying to make that next decision. And none of them are really at a point where it's like, oh, wow, this is happening right now. It's all kind of just gearing up, holding supports, pushing up against resistances, and we haven't seen any huge move to the downside yet on the dollar. It looked like we tried to break it right here. We had this little kind of spike down where we tried to push down below it. But it looks like we popped back up again. I don't think this is going to have the strength to push back to new highs, especially with the more macro policy going on. But those are kind of the most important macro things right now. Clearly, inflation is also one, but and this could be the trigger to really bring a lot of this, wrap a lot of this up. Like the inflation rate could be a thing to really wrap a lot of this up pretty quickly. Let me see if I can pull. It's so hard to find this inflation. This is really the most important thing. This will bring down the dollar. Inflation rate at 2.3%, right at the Federal Reserve's target. Everything looks good there. So all these charts really are signaling a pretty big move. And it's more about just finally getting that confirmation that these things are taking place. I mean, this inflation chart, in my opinion, is going below 2%. I think we're probably going to get that in the next reading. You'll see a pretty big step down here, down to lower levels. And we'll do a quick check on what Trueflation is reading, just because we haven't checked that in a few days now. So Trueflation is seeing a little bit of a rebound in inflation, but still substantially lower than where the Fed's data is. Trueflation is reading about 1.85. Fed is reading 2.3. And we're yet to see these lower levels on the Fed data. So I still think we're going to get a report on these lower levels on the Fed data. But we do see a little bit of a tick up on inflation on Trueflation. nothing we haven't seen before. We had a tick up here and then crash back down. We'll have a tick up here. We'll probably come back down. But it's also important to realize that inflation at 1.8% is at the Fed's target. It's a really good number. So it's actually, you don't always want to just see inflation crashing to oblivion. You kind of want to see inflation exactly where it is right now. So just kind of holding these levels would be a pretty big win. Guys, with that said, I think we covered all the important news. I mean, the big thing was the Ripple SEC case. We got John Deaton on that. We went over the charts. There's not a whole lot there that we really have to say, okay, this is majorly critical. So guys, I hope everyone has a great weekend. Futures go live on the 19th, so we'll keep an eye for that.